Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Happy Thursday to the world, to the fantasy football world.
I really felt like you were going to say happy birthday to me.
It's not your birthday.
I know, and that was a shame.
It might feel like it, though. There's no Mike here.
Yeah! I miss you, Mike.
Yeah, actually, it's rough.
Come back soon. Your beard and your beauty.
Mike might not be here, but that did not stop a very hearty Danny Amendola debate last night.
The fight was on, man.
Well, we have some differing opinions. Not by much, but Mike. You know how he gets. When he goes to Disneyland, you know how he gets.
When you drop $40 a fab on someone,
I'm telling you.
You gots to believe.
I'm telling you. He spent $40 a fab on Danny Amendola, and we had a little debate last night. And I'm going to bring it up in the quick question. He's not here to defend himself. So this will be great. It is Thursday, November 19th. We are the Fantasy Footballers. I'm Andy Holloway, joined by Jason Moore. Mike is finishing up his vacation, a couple more days, and then he'll be back with us next week. We got a good show for you today. We've got our news update for you. We can catch you up with all the injuries and things you need to know. We got our fantasy forecast. We're going to go through the first 7 games of this weekend, let you know everything that's going on, including the weather, because we're getting to the time of year where that matters, especially in certain games.
You play football in 20 degrees and scores are not going to be flying high.
Well, yeah, or in a blizzard or a rainstorm or a muddy field or whatever's going on. You need to know that stuff because it does make a difference, especially because we've trained the streaming culture out there to be streaming guys in and out, and you need to play with the weather as well. We've got our starts of the week on the show today. Mike did give us his, so we'll be delivering all the starts of the week at the end of the show, or not the end, but after the forecast. And what else is going on?
I am so sore.
Oh, because you joined us for a flag football game on Tuesday night.
Yeah. Old double stuff. Thought he could just go right back out mid-season form and play on.
And is it correct that on the very first play that I overthrew you on a screen pass, and you went down because you have balance issues, right? Is that correct? You have diagnosed?
No, my lightning speed was trying to catch up to this ball that was overthrown, and of course, so was the defender, right? He's like, "Oh, that ball's terribly overthrown. I can intercept that." And so we basically just ran sprint into each other and smashed, and then I landed on my knee.
No spatial awareness.
Yeah, played the rest of the game through it. Feel it today.
And we're wearing our Back to the Future Fantasy Footballers shirts that came in the mail yesterday. So if you ordered one of those, you probably have yours now too. They turn out pretty good.
I love it.
Yeah, it's nice. And I told some people yesterday on jointhefoot.com that we have a couple more that are going to be coming out because people like the pop culture theme shirts.
Maybe a little Star Wars-y.
I did. I told him.
Oh, you did?
I told him we had a Star Wars one. We had a Ninja Turtle one eventually coming out.
Yeah.
And then
we gotta get that Star Wars.
I think we're
gonna
also. I'm gonna break this to you right now. We're also gonna do something with standing victories on a shirt.
Hey.
So that's gonna take place at some point.
It's our new tagline.
All right, check us out on jointhefoot.com. Like I mentioned, that's our fantasy football community. We're over 1,000 people there that are talking fantasy football, all your questions. Just a good community to ask anything, to talk about the show, talk about things that you like to see, and which guys you're starting. Check out thefantasyfootballers.com. That's our homepage, our website, whatever the internet thing.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
Yep. We're on the web.
And then Twitter, at the FF Ballers. If you want to follow Jason, you can do so at JasonFFL. Follow Mike at FF Hitman, and follow me at Andy Holloway. And, so quick question, like I said, where do you have Danny Amendola rest of the season?
He's clearly the number one wide receiver in the National Football League from here on out.
Well, because the rule is, right, like if a really good player ahead of you gets injured, the next guy becomes that player. Like
Probably
he takes his essence and his being, and he just becomes them.
Right. Mockery. That's a mockery.
Yeah, that's sarcasm.
So here's my view on Danny Amendola. I actually really like him. I would love to have him on my team. I feel like he is the type of guy that's going to get a ton of targets, have games. Has to, right? He's going to have games where he scores because that offense scores so much. He's going to be involved, and he's going to have a decent ceiling and a decent floor. But what you're going to get is you're going to get certain games where game flow, they just say, hey, I'm going to go LeGarrette Blount this game and go nuts with that and deep balls to Lafell. And it's just going to be different games where you're going to be disappointed that you might have started him. Just like you are when you start LeGarrette Blount and you go, oh, he's going to eat, and then he doesn't get any carries. So he's going to be up and down. The one thing that I would say is this. Julian Edelman goes out, and we're hoping or wanting or believing that Danny Amendola steps into that role, but he isn't Julian Edelman. He isn't as fast. He isn't as quick. His little, Julian Edelman's yards after the catch are always really impressive. They're very Wes Welker, from years ago, where he grabs the ball, does a little cut, and goes. You just don't see that same thing from Amendola, so you can't be expecting him to be Edelman.
Yeah, and that was my whole point. I didn't say I didn't like Amendola at all. I think I went out and spent some, I tried to bid on him in all my leagues. But to come in and just say, to me, he's going to be 70% of the fantasy production of Julian Edelman.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's not bad. And one thing that we're forgetting is we don't know what the impact of losing Dion Lewis was going to be on Edelman, because this was the first game without Dion Lewis, and he averaged 7 targets a game, and then Edelman was going to probably get a little bit more attention, so maybe that bumps Amendola up again. But all I'm saying is this is Bill Belichick. This is Keyshawn Martin, Aaron Dobson, Chris Harper, Scott Chandler, Brandon Bolden. Those are all guys that somebody's going to do something that we don't expect, because when Welker left before, Amendola was supposed to sweep in and become Wes Welker.
Everyone was excited for Amendola.
He will have his games. He will absolutely have his games. He's worth owning.
That being said, that list of players you just named, which I get what you're saying, right? Bill Belichick will use anybody and everybody at different games.
But it
really made me like Amendola. I was like, I don't like any of those guys. Are you telling me Dobson is my...
I didn't even say James White.
Right?
Okay, so real quick answers on these. Danny Amendola rest of the season. Do you like him above or below Michael Crabtree?
Below.
Brandon Lafell?
Below.
Eric Decker?
Below.
Jarvis Landry?
Below.
Stevie Johnson?
Above.
Alan Hearns?
Above.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you for being so prompt.
You
and quick.
said quick answers.
I also wanted to just mention the beauty that is our quarterback situation in the NFL. Brock Osweiler, Mark Sanchez, TJ Yates, Matt Hasselbeck, and Blaine Gabbert are starting this week.
Woohoo!
So that'll get us into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, so one of those guys, TJ Yates, he's starting because Hoyer was pretty much ruled out. Brian Hoyer's going to miss this week.
Which, that is so crazy. The play, remember when if you were watching the game live, the commentators couldn't even find the play for like 30 minutes. They're looking back at film like, where did Hoyer get injured? And now he's going to miss a week from it. That was strange.
a coach-induced concussion. He said, you have a concussion. Come off the field. We're going to put someone else in. All right, Ryan Fitzpatrick had surgery last week. We know that. He should start in Week 11. That's just a note for everybody out there who's curious about his status. He should start this week. Vincent Jackson, out again in Week 11. I think I read 53 targets over the last 3 weeks for Mike Evans.
Yeah.
53 targets.
Big boy going to eat. He's going to catch at least half of them.
I was going to say. Well, actually, if he caught half of them, you'd be in good shape.
I was going to say, not at least half of them, but near.
Okay, this broke. Hopkins missed practice yesterday. Is there any reason to be concerned? Is this just Monday night game, give him a day off, veteran day off?
Yeah, there is reason to be concerned, but it's not the injury, I don't believe. Hopkins has had a couple weeks where he's taken a practice off. He's the main target, getting so much work in the game. Extra rest, I think, is smart, but the reasons to be concerned would be the quarterback combined with the defensive back. You got Darrelle Revis on the other side, which I don't think is enough reason to sit Hopkins. But then you've got the quarterback of TJ Yates coming in. That combo is not one that I think is going to be you're not going to see a 100 yards and 2 touchdowns type of game.
He hears you. He hears you.
That is a challenge, Hop. I'm challenging. I'm putting you on blast.
It's Nuke. You got to call him by his nickname if you guys are close. Sammy Biscuits, separated shoulder, plus in the concussion protocol. We're expecting Mark Sanchez this week.
We are. I want another butt fumble.
Yes, there's high goals. Kendall Wright out for Thursday Night Football. That means he joins. We know Justin Hunter is out for Thursday Night Football. When we get to our starts of the week, you're going to understand a little bit about Delanie Walker. I'll just give it to you now. Delanie Walker's in that list. There are limited options in the passing game, and Jacksonville's not exactly at the top of the league in passing defense. So I think there's some opportunities there for Tennessee, although I'm kind of with Jason. This game might be low scoring. Mike McCarthy confirmed Starks is still the starter. Lacey's practicing. What do you expect from that backfield?
Well, I expect that to be honest, that Starks will get the first touch, and I expect he will get the majority of the touches. However, he's going to get less of the majority than he did last week when he had the Lions share, and against the Lions. And so I expect very mediocre things this week from James Starks.
Michael Floyd, after the big breakout last week, and John Brown, who hasn't caught a pass since week number 7, both missed practice. I think they're both genuinely questionable for this game. From what I'm reading about John Brown, and part of the reason why his production has gone down, is this hamstring is still an issue. There's worry on his part that if he lets it go, and his whole game is top speed, if he lets it go, he's going to tear it or he's going to damage it further. And so he's not been effective. It might be time to sit him down. I'm not sure. What do you expect? Do you expect either to play?
I think that Floyd, to me, has a better chance of playing and being relevant. We've seen for a couple weeks where when John Brown starts, he has not been used. He's been more of a decoy, and it's lingering. I mean, it's not, that hamstring isn't going away. So I'm steering clear of John Brown. If Michael Floyd is in the lineup, I would start him. If John Brown is in the lineup, I'm not starting John Brown under any circumstance this week. If both guys are out, Gerard Brown becomes an absolute fantasy starter. If both of those guys are out in a game like this on prime time,
so you would start Jerome Brown?
Yeah. If those two guys are out, you're talking about the number 2 on a high passing offense. Why in the world would you not start him? You've seen this year he can make big plays. He's looked great. So if he's going to be the number 2,
this year you mean
his only year?
Sunday? No, it's not his only year. He's been on the team for 3 years. Jerome Brown's been with the Cardinals for a while. That being said, last game was really the only game of relevance because we saw the injury to Floyd and Brown wasn't doing anything. Let's move on here. Bears coach John Fox says the running back rotation will be tricky once Matt Forte returns.
Uh-oh.
This is concerning for one fantasy player, and that is the player that owns them both. Because I guess it's concerning for more than that, but that is the biggest concern because you kind of want the bell cow in a good situation where the running back's been producing all year. Langford comes in, gives you 2 great games. Forte gave you great games before that. And now if they're sharing, if it's 75-25,
just takes some value away from Forte.
It does. It takes some value away, and we don't really know when he's going to return. Even the context of when he said that, maybe that means a couple more weeks off for Forte. So we don't really know. John Fox is the worst.
Well said, Andy. Very
and then we talked about Alshon Jeffrey or we didn't yet. Alshon is listed on the injury report. Groin and shoulder injuries. Earlier this year, he had calf and hamstring injuries.
Yeah, he's not healthy. We saw last game the combination of that health with a healthy defense across the field in the Rams. He didn't get a lot of use, and so all of a sudden this week we've got a similar situation. We've got a guy who has shown some true injuries this year, missing games, hampered in games. Now he's going up against the Broncos. They get Aqib Talib back from suspension. To me, he is a guy that you can sit if you've got the luxury. If you have other good options, I don't look at Alshon Jeffrey and go, well, he's the number 1. He's going to have to get at least 6 catches. I mean, I would not be surprised if he has 6 for 75, but I'm not surprised at all if he has 3 for 23 this game.
If he kills you.
Right. And so I am willing to, I know I have the luxury on my personal team, but I am benching Alshon Jeffrey this week. I've got Randall Cobb and Mike Evans ahead of
guys that you prefer over the risk that is Alshon Jeffrey in this game.
Yep, exactly.
All right, so a couple other notes. The Titans game is tonight. David Cobb is active and should get some carries. Do we expect him to be the long-term guy? I mean, a couple weeks from now, will he have relevance?
That's what you're watching for tonight. I don't think that we can have any expectation considering.
Is there a coming-on party for him?
I don't think it will. I don't think it'll happen tonight. The Jaguars' run D is surprisingly decent. When you talk about yards per carry and what they give up, it's not.
Yeah, they're a little enigmatic because they're great against the run statistically, like you're saying, but fantasy-wise, they've actually given up quite a bit to the running back.
Right. So, but put it this way: let's say Cobb comes in and has 10 carries for 10 yards, but he gets a touchdown. Are you excited about that? Do you go into the next week thinking, "Ooh, Cobb's the guy"? No, probably not.
Yeah, at least he's got youth on his side. But yeah, you're right because Antonio Andrews is being used. He had a bad week last week, kind of a mess. It's kind of the same thing for the Titans. Stay away from the running backs. Carlos Hyde didn't practice. Do you think he'll play?
No, I don't think he'll play. He hasn't played in a while. He shouldn't play. He's got a serious injury, and so Sean Drone. And this is not a good matchup, so you're going to stay away from whoever's
Seahawks.
Here. Yeah, the Seahawks in Seattle. You just this is keep Carlos Hyde on your bench or in your IR spot, and don't worry about his backup.
And last bit of news, but very relevant tonight. Yeldon's been out of practice a couple games, but he's listed as questionable, TJ Yeldon. He says he'll play, and the expectation is that he'll play. He's played at less than 100% this year. Do you expect that to happen?
Yeah, I expect him to play because of like what you said. You've seen it this year. He is very confident that he's very confident that he's going to play, which you like to hear from a player, even though you're like, what else do you expect? You still like to hear that. So I think he plays. If you're in one of those open waiver leagues where you have the opportunity to sign anyone right up to game time, if he doesn't play, Denard Robinson should be a pretty good option, I think.
To stream in a desperate situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of desperate situations.
There
right
are.
now.
There are. So before we get into the fantasy forecast, we look at the Thursday night game. We walk through the other six matchups of the week. I want to make sure we thank our sponsor today. We've got a couple of them for the show today. FanDuel. Listen, how's your fantasy team doing? Hopefully very well. Hopefully you're doing well.
It is.
But, you're having a very good year, Jason. But, your other teams, you don't have to wait until next year for more fantasy football. If you're struggling, you can get in on the action right now at FanDuel.com. Finally, it can pay to be a fan. It is the best place to play 1 week fantasy football. And listen, it's not just for huge tournaments. You can set up a private league and play against your friends anytime, anywhere, and may the best fantasy player win. All right? If you think you know fantasy football, come and prove it over at FanDuel.com. You can join over 2 million players that have already won money at FanDuel.com. You go to FanDuel.com and click on the microphone in the upper right-hand corner and use our code BALLERS and sign up right now. And when you try FanDuel right now, you also get an exclusive no-lose offer on your first league. That's right. This is new, by the way. That's right. Enter a FanDuel league now, and if you don't win, FanDuel will refund your money. Any contest you want, up to $10. Just make a deposit, choose your league, and if you don't win, you get that money right back in your FanDuel account. And the only way to get this exclusive no-lose offer is to go to FanDuel.com, click on the microphone, and use the promo code BALLERS. That is the promo code BALLERS. So do that right now.
Yeah. Foot Clan, if you're out there, I wonder if anybody is doing the mustache-only Movember. We got a guy on our flag football team who is doing that.
Shout out to Tony.
Tony,
Tony the Stash. As we're now calling him.
It's looking real good.
Yeah.
That's an opportunity to raise awareness for men's health. And one of our sponsors of the show that we love, Harry's.com, they are the official sponsor of the Movember Foundation. So big shout out to them. They actually give 1% of all proceeds to charity. They work in their community. It's a great company. So listen, if you need razors, if you shave your face, if your wife shaves her legs, if you have razors in your house, Harry's is where you want them. For me personally, I've always had problems with my neck. I hate razor burn. too big, too fat. But it's just one of those problem areas for me to shave. When I got the Harry's razors, they are really quality blades. Apparently I have never been willing to buy really quality blades, but I am now because these blades are affordable. They are high quality, bought and made in Germany, factory direct, which is why they're cheap. You can get, with our promo code, which is Footballers, you can actually save $5 off your first purchase. And so for just $10, free shipping, you can get this lovely package of a razor, a shave cream, extra blades. I actually have been getting them and giving them as gifts. So here's what you want to do. Go to harrys.com right now. As that special offer, Harry's will give you $5 off your first order with code Footballers. That's Harry's, HARRYS.com. Enter code Footballers for your better shave today.
All right, it is time to get into Week 11. It's time to do it.
Fantasy Forecast.
I want to first say, Jason.
Yes.
Not impressed. People are not impressed with your mailbag yesterday.
You know what? I'm going to redeem myself. I will get it perfect. I've been
tomorrow.
Practicing in the shower.
It's going to be tomorrow because we're not going to have time today. We got fantasy forecast. We got our starts of the week. You've been practicing in the shower?
Well, hey. I will get a chance to try today. We got our Thursday mailbag show for Patreon listeners.
Oh.
So if you're over at Join the Foot, you get one more extra chance at Jason's mailbag shout special.
We do have our extra show over there today. I forgot. That is, you priming those lungs?
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
Yes, you'll be ready. All right. Let's get into the matchups. Let's start with the Thursday night barn burner. The Titans at the Jags. You know what's funny is it's hard to adjust your mind to look at the Jaguars differently than you have for 5 consecutive years, in the sense that, yes, this is not a barn burner tonight, but you do have a matchup with a rookie. You get to go see Mariota. You get to see an offense has been somewhat prolific with Bortles and Robinson and Hearns. They've done things that they hadn't done in the past. So, all the jokes being made, I think the Jaguars are wearing gold uniforms head to toe.
Yeah.
That's something to see.
Is this one of those color rush games?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
So, no worries about the weather in this one, although maybe a drizzle. Mariota, Bortles. Do you start either guy?
Yeah, I think Bortles is a fine start with his weapons, what he's been doing on the year. The defense is an okay, average middle of the pack kind of pass defense. Bortles is an absolute fine start. If you've got him, I got no problem starting him. I don't expect him to have a giant game. Like I was telling Andy, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a little lower scoring, being that it's a Thursday, it's a short week. You've got some injury concerns on the offense on the Titans side, which will just help keep the score lower. But Bortles is an absolutely fine play. And Mariota, if you're in a 2-quarterback league, he could put up some stuff. The problem there for me is that Kendall Wright is gone. So yeah, maybe Dorial Green-Beckham steps up this week.
You have Bortles, just for the record. You have him ranked number 6. You have him ahead of Carr, Palmer. You have him ahead of Palmer.
Crazy. Well, you've got some injuries on the Cardinals' weapons. You've got them going up against a very good pass defense in the Bengals. I don't expect the Bengals of last week to be... Even the Bengals that imploded last week, their defense was incredible.
We both have Bortles at 6, actually.
There you go.
So, and then we both have Mariota inside the top 10 this week, believe it or not. I think because of the matchup and because Mariota is coming off not a great game, but then the game before that he had 4 touchdowns. So he's kind of going to do that. He's going to rubber band a little bit, but I think he's streamable. All right, running backs, we already kind of talked about both these situations, so I don't think we have to linger too much, but Antonio Andrews and maybe David Cobb gets some snaps, and then you got TJ Yeldon on the other side, who is an absolute start, assuming he's healthy. And by healthy, I mean active.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, wide receiver-wise, Jason just mentioned him. He's a guy that I am streaming this week. I have him in my lineup right now over Marvin Jones.
Oh, you do?
And over Kamar Aiken.
Well, I don't blame you there. The Marvin Jones thing is questionable, but
sure.
But tell the listeners.
Well, Dorial Green-Beckham
There you have
I
it.
am going to play him.
No, you are going to. Is that official?
I don't want to.
No, make it official.
I don't want to lock it in at 9
that.
a.m. I might change my mind.
Well, you got to tweet out what you do.
But he is in there right now. And he's a situation where it's happened before. He's a streamable guy tonight. No Kendall Wright. No Justin Hunter. You've got Delanie Walker and you've got Dorial Green-Beckham. And I'm going to put my faith in the fact that Mariota is going to move the ball enough to make him relevant. He had 10 targets 2 weeks ago. He had a very bad game last week. He's a rookie.
And we expected that with the matchup last week. When we were talking waivers, Dorial Green-Beckham was a guy
Josh Norman.
Yeah, exactly. We were looking forward to this week with Dorial Green-Beckham. Kendall Wright is out. DGB has been stepping up. His talent is fantastic. But then he got Josh Norman. So we even said, like, look forward to this week. So I'm happy you're starting him.
I mean, it's always dangerous to go out on a limb.
Oh, this is
on
a limb.
Thursday night game because I have to come back and show my face tomorrow morning. But I think Dorial Green-Beckham is streamable. He's in essentially my flex spot.
But you're clearly going to take him.
But I'm playing him in my wide receiver spot.
Thank you.
Because I want to have flexibility in my flex spot. But he's playing as my wide receiver 3 this week.
Wow.
With Marshall and Julio, and I'm going to play him.
All right. I guess you don't really have a lot of opportunity to change it. The game's coming quick.
Coming quick. So on the other side of the ball, Hearns is expected to play. It's the Hearns and Robinson show. Do you start both? Yes, you do.
I don't think you can start either of these guys. That was a joke.
You have to come back from the joke. Then I'm just going to leave you out there on your island of stupidity.
Both of these guys have caught so many touchdowns. They've been doing a tandem job that we haven't seen a lot of teams do. I mean, they're doing like a decade worthy tandem of wide receivers. I mean, what would be a better performing wide receiver pair right now in the NFL?
I would say Marshall Decker is up there.
That's the only
Marshall Decker's
that
up
one
there.
Comes to mind.
Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree is up there.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
And Fitzgerald and somebody.
Yeah, but that's always split.
Yeah, that's not the case anymore. So, both
of those
you're
guys,
right.
You throw them out there. You're fine starting either one of those guys.
Yes, absolutely. Just for the record, too, I want to mention these. We both have Allen Robinson number 5 on our wide receiver rankings this week. Allen Hearns we have in the 2 category. You have him at 16. I have him at 19. So, Mike couldn't be bothered to put rankings up because he was in
gallivanting around Disneyland.
Yeah,
what a
he was
jerk.
in Star Tours.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, let's talk tight end. I've already said it. Delanie's my start of the week this week. I'm going to talk about it in detail later. But Delanie, he was my start of the week 2 weeks ago. I just think the target's going to be there tonight. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Any confidence at all in Julius Thomas? No way you're starting him.
No way I'm starting him. No confidence. And that's not to say that he can't have a decent game. We've seen Julius Thomas have decent games before. With as hurt as Allen Hearns is, if he comes up limp and they really need to get someone else involved, it could be JT, but no way should you play him. There are other options that I think are deeper, that are on the waivers, and JT probably isn't, that I would gladly have over Julius Thomas.
All right. I didn't realize how much time had gone by. We got 6 matchups and starts of the weeks to get to. Yeah, let's do it. All right, Rams at the Ravens. You've got Case Keenum making his debut. So the first question I'm going to ask when that type of thing happens is, can you stream the Baltimore defense this week? At home against essentially Todd Gurley?
No.
No, you're saying no.
I am saying no because what the Rams did here is they upgraded their quarterback. I realize that it is, it's the first week that he's going to be starting, but I don't look at this as anything different than what the Rams already were, other than now they can throw the deep ball. So maybe Kenny Britt can show up. You got Wes Welker, who got a couple targets last game, looked younger than I expected him to on the field, and of course Tavon Austin there. The Ravens, their secondary is beatable. So this is actually a good game for Case Keenum to come into. And I'm not saying to stream Case Keenum, but if you're playing one of those larger crazy leagues where you're playing DFS and you want to win something big that is surprising, pairing a Keenum and Britt, no one else is going to be doing it, but it could happen.
Literally no one else is going to be doing it. All right. Joe Flacco had a good week last week, but listen to this. His 5 best fantasy performances of the season came when he was able to throw for more than 300 passing yards. And the Rams have yet to give up 300 yards to a quarterback all year. So I'm not expecting big things from Joe Flacco this week.
No, I do not either. I think Joe Flacco is, there's some question because of what Jay Cutler did to the Rams last week. So I think that last week he put up 3 touchdowns in the first half, and you're thinking, oh, maybe Joe Flacco can do it. But this Rams D is legit. They are for real. They are missing one of their key elements in their pass rush, but I just don't see Joe Flacco having a big game this week, which is why I didn't like Amari.
All right, Todd Gurley. He is my number 1 this week.
I was shocked where I had him.
He's your 5.
Exactly, but that's what it says. I had him at 5. I had him as the 5th best running back, and I was shocked. I was like, when I finished my stats and I looked at my rankings, I was like, oh, that's disgustingly low.
Yeah. So we know he's starting. Yeah. And Justin Forsett, we pretty much know he's starting too. But the matchup isn't great. No,
the matchup's not great. He didn't have I think he benefits. He's one of those guys that benefits a little bit more from the matchup than he's not the type that's going to bully a very tough D. So I don't love Forsett this week.
All right, Kenny Britt, Tavon Austin, Wes Welker, Brian Quick.
Yeah,
ho-hum.
You just can't play the I can guess who it's going to be game. And really, I think it's every bit as likely that it's not going to be anyone.
Yep.
That it's just.
I mean, if I had to play one, it's Austin. Clearly Austin, because he'll get the most touches. They'll give him some opportunities to run the ball, make a big play.
Yeah.
Kamar Aiken this week on the other side of the ball, I'm tempering expectations with him. He's going to be matched up against Jenkins, no doubt. And Aiken, I have it as kind of like a back-end wide receiver 3 this week. Are you in agreement?
Yeah. He's my sit.
No, the Rams are the 6th best pass defense.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, he was your sit, right?
Kamar Aiken, he definitely is going to. I think I've got him at 46 this week. He's going to get the targets, so he could get some receptions, but I don't see him having a high ceiling at all.
All right, the Redskins head into Carolina to take on the Panthers. The Panthers are heavily favored in this game, but the Redskins have been playing well. So, Cam Newton, what did you make of that dance? Did you get to watch the dance?
I saw a part of the dance. I only had a little while. So, yeah, see what I did there. I have no problem with it, and I love what Cam said about it at the end of the game.
Keep me out.
Yeah, he said, I'm a big believer of if you don't want me to do that dance, stop me from getting in.
Yeah.
It's the NFL. I mean, I'm not personally one that likes those things. I don't actually look at that and go, yeah, Cam, you're cool. And if I was capable of playing in the NFL, which I'm very far away from, I wouldn't do that. I would be the guy that scores the touchdown, go up, give a handshake to my quarterback, give the ball to the ref. That's my preference, but I don't have any problem with the guy scoring a touchdown and doing a dance.
Did you do that dance after I threw you that extra point this past weekend? This past week?
Yeah, well, I did a backflip.
No, you did not.
No.
That was called you sat down on the field.
Yeah.
All right. Let's so Cam Newton, how do you feel about him this week? Because he's a guy people will make decisions on.
So
would you start Cam Newton over?
Yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
The answer is yes. When I got done statting my players,
you're crazy.
Cam
no,
Newton,
you're not crazy. You have him at 1.
I have him at 1. Now I don't. When we stat these things out, right? I'm looking at the average of what I expect people to be. So this is kind of like their mid-level, and Cam to me is not as gapped, right? Tom Brady could easily. There's someone else is going to finish above Cam. I'm not saying he's going to be one, but I do think he's going to be consistent. You can bank on him, at least having 2 touchdowns, 1 possibly on the ground, 225 yards. Through the air, and then also running for 30, 40 yards. That baseline just moves him so high.
Yeah, so you'd start him over just about everybody. I would start him over most guys. I'd start Palmer ahead of him this week because I'm staying in the flames with Palmer. I'd start Rodgers and Brady ahead of him.
Rodgers and Brady are the only 2 that if I had, I would actually start ahead of him. Palmer's been great, but the weapons being injured is obviously a concern.
Kirk Cousins sitting him down.
Yes.
After last week. You didn't want to reward him? The fantasy owners out there, they probably want to say, you know what, Kirk? You got it done.
You're
I'm going to
playing
give you
really
another
good.
start. We're just going to give you one against Carolina in Carolina.
Yeah, it's not
Shouldn't do that.
Not going to happen. He was our stream of the week last week, the number one quarterback last week, and you can drop him. I don't think you need to keep him for the reason we played him last week was a matchup thing.
All right, so let's talk about the running backs in this game. Jonathan Stewart has I believe 5 consecutive games of 20 carries.
5 consecutive games with 20 carries.
It's either 4 or 5. I'm gonna verify that.
Yeah, he has been he's been getting the ball. He's been running well, and even though he's not getting in the end zone as much as Jonathan Stewart owners would like, he's been getting in the end zone more than I would expect.
4 times in the end zone in the last 5 games.
That's what
5
I mean.
straight games with 20 plus carries, not just touches.
Yeah,
so the workload is there.
And the Redskins are a beatable run D, especially with the power run game that the Panthers have. This is a matchup that I expect Jonathan Stewart to have plenty of yards in, plenty of touches, and then you hope he gets that touchdown, which Cam will probably steal.
Number 1 in attempts this year, going away, is Adrian Peterson. Number 2, Jonathan Stewart.
There you go.
Jonathan Stewart. And then Chris Johnson, Devontae Freeman. All right, so we're starting Stewart without any hesitation. Are you chasing points with Matt Jones?
No way. I'm not chasing points with any Redskin running back against Carolina. If you're low on the totem pole, your bench is depleted and you have to start a guy. In this game, I think it would be Matt Jones. He's probably got the highest upside, and the floors of Jones and Alf are pretty similar. But, and the Panthers aren't a team that usually blows people out. So it's not going to be one of those where you got to have the pass catching back, in the game for Washington. So Matt Jones would be the guy who would start, but I would really prefer other options from around the league.
All right, I'm not going to spend any time lingering on pass catching Carolina Panthers outside of Olsen. You're not really starting or streaming any of those guys this week, unless I'm wrong.
No, if you have to, I would go Ginn.
And then Garcon and Deshaun Jackson. Do you expect Deshaun Jackson to continue to increase his usage here, or is this just a matchup that just doesn't fit with him becoming fantasy relevant this week?
Over the course of the year, I expect it to happen. This game, it really depends on who Norman is going to be on. Norman is normally on the number 1 outside guy, which
I think it'll be Jackson.
Yeah, which would be Jackson, in which case, no. And the reason we don't like Kirk Cousins says we, obviously wouldn't like the wide receivers. Yeah. But that also says I'm not super high on Rule 86 this week.
Okay.
Jordan Reed is a little lower in my rankings. He's
lower on mine too. Let me give you some guys that we would start over Reed according to our rankings. We would start Jacob Tamme consensus rankings above Reed. Maybe that's too far.
Well, he is my start of the week, so I would.
Yeah, and in that case, Delanie Walker's the other guy that I was going to mention, and he's my start of the week. So
and Eric Ebron.
Yeah, Jason Witten, Tyler Eifert, Travis Kelce. So he takes a big bump down because the offense, Reed has actually, his production in fantasy the last 2 weeks has been really touchdown dependent.
Yeah.
He had 2 touchdowns last week and 1 the week before, and if he hadn't done that, he'd have been...
I think he's got about the same number of catches without a touchdown as he does with a touchdown the last couple weeks.
There you go. Yeah, so the Broncos go into the Bears. We're going to move on to this matchup. This one is a very low over-under total. Vegas has this game as a lower scoring game.
A big reason why, not only because of the great defense and poor offense, but the weather. 28 degrees. That's one of those rare, very cold games where it actually affects, especially the passing game. So even though it's expected to be clear, did a little bit of research on games around this type of temperature, and you see a lot fewer total plays every game because passing plays come way down, and what ends up happening is just essentially more punts, right? You have less success by the offenses, and so games tend to run out quicker.
Well, it doesn't, and you got Brock Osweiler now making his debut.
Yep.
And then you have the Langford Forte situation. Those are a couple of the big things to look at in this game. So let's start with Osweiler. You said that you feel like Thomas benefits as opposed to in a neutral situation. I do not necessarily take that approach. I'm fairly neutral with that. I know Peyton's been failing so much. We said Thomas only has 1 touchdown on the whole year. I don't really feel like I can give him an endorsement in Chicago this week because I just don't see that. I have to see Osweiler. Osweiler wasn't impressive to me.
Yeah. Well, he really was impressive in preseason, Andy.
Well, okay.
So there's that. With Demaryius Thomas, he's still going to be great. I mean, I think your neutral endorsement, he's been still a top wide receiver. I think he's in the top 3, right, for total receptions this year or targets. He's been getting used. He just hasn't been in the end zone. So we've got him at consensus number 7 this week. I think you've got him at 10. I've got him at 4. He's still a good option. The Bears secondary isn't, it isn't the Broncos secondary. And I do think he targets him a little bit more. Coming out of this game, Demaryius Thomas will have the most targets in Denver.
Yeah, I agree with that. So do we expect Emmanuel Sanders to be okay?
He is so hurt. Still not practicing right now. At least yesterday. He's probably going to be a limited participant today. He's a gamer. He's always played through injuries, so I expect him to play and be decent. But in a low-scoring game, cold weather, Brock Osweiler, I'm tempering my hopes.
No catches last week. We remind owners that don't need reminding.
Yeah. If you had Emmanuel Sanders, you're not happy.
Yeah. So check his status, though. We'll go through that tomorrow morning and let you know what happened on Thursday in terms of practice. Alshon Jeffrey, we already gave you the overview with him. I don't really think you can start any other wide receivers there. Royal's going to be out. Marcus Wilson's done absolutely nothing, even with guys being out. Bennett was your sit of the week.
Yeah, I just don't expect a lot of offense in this game.
That's really what it comes down to.
Either side of the ball, I think because of the weather, it's going to be more running.
A lot of sits.
If there's going to be, there's a lot of sits. And obviously you're not going to sit a guy like Demaryius Thomas when he doesn't have a terrible matchup across the field. But everyone else I'm willing to sit. I do like Langford. If Forte's out, I expect Langford to get the ball a lot in a cold weather. And he's just been, on fire. So I think the Flames stay in the cold. If that makes any sense at all.
No, none at all.
The Flames stay in the cold weather. Flames stay alive.
Okay. For Langford. Yeah, the pass defenses, Broncos are first, Bears are fourth. And then you mix in the weather and you mix in the situation and, maybe a low-scoring game. Maybe Vegas has that right. Cowboys go into Miami, take on the Dolphins, and Tony Romo will return in this one. I saw Mike in one of our leagues make a sneaky little move. He signed Dan Bailey.
Very smart.
Right before this week. So that would be something to mention to you if you want one of those higher profile kickers. Bailey's been good anyways. Now the offense might move a little bit.
Yeah. Always helps a kicker to be able to get in field goal range.
Not to mention, Bailey's one of the guys that plays his home games in a dome. And this is the time of year when you need to pay attention to that because you don't want guys outside in 20-degree weather with the wind blowing and the snow falling and having to make kicks.
Yeah, or even extra points from, far away.
Ugh, yeah. And our league has a terrible penalty for missing an extra point that has been there.
It's an old rule, right? Because
it's
everybody
been there since the beginning.
So you got -3 points when you missed an extra point, which pretty much never mattered in our league of record.
Sure.
But
and
this
if it
year,
did, it would be once in a year, and it would be laughable, and you'd lose some points.
Yeah. But now this year we forgot to change that rule coming in before the season, and as they move the extra points back and you see them missing, these are affecting games.
And it is infuriating.
I'm sure we're not the only league like that.
I have tried to change the rule twice during the season only to get voted down both times, and Jason voted me down.
I've got Gostkowski. I want those.
That is so selfish.
What are you trying to do when I'm playing to win?
You vote on league rules based on the integrity of the league.
In the offseason,
not on rules that benefit you.
In the offseason, you're exactly right. I completely agree. In the middle of the season, I'm not going to change it.
After 9 years, your desperation's showing through. All right. Ryan Tannehill, Tony Romo. You like Romo. He was your stream of the week. I don't like Tannehill at all. I'd start a lot of guys above him. But Romo comes in. How does he affect McFadden, Dez, Terrence Williams, and Witten?
I believe that everybody rises here. I think that he...
Rise,
Cowboys, rise! McFadden is not going to have the boxes stacked against him when Tony Romo's behind him. I still expect the Cowboys to run the ball and be... I mean, last year they had Tony Romo, and DeMarco Murray was... the league leader in yards. And so I think this is good for DMC. Some people are saying, this is now the time to sell. I don't buy that. It's obviously good for Des Bryant, hugely good for Des Bryant, good for Terrence Williams. And I think Tony Romo's got he doesn't need weeks and weeks and weeks of practice and playbook. He knows the system. He's an extreme veteran. So he's going to come in and have a fine game against a winnable matchup.
All right, the other side of the ball, Lamar Miller, Jay Ajayi. We expect Miller to be totally fine as a start this week.
Yeah, you have to keep. I mean, the Cowboys defense is very good, but you have to stick with Miller. He just gets the ball, and if he doesn't get it going in the run game, they get him involved in the pass game. He's going to catch 5 passes and have a chance to break one off, get 5 for 50, which is like what you get from a middling wide receiver, plus the carries and touchdown opportunities.
All right, I agree with you. What about the wide receivers on Miami's side? Who are you starting Landry over this week?
Probably a decent amount of people. I mean,
would you start him over? We said Amendola earlier. Would you start Amendola or Landry? Didn't you say you'd start Amendola over him?
Well, no, I said I would take Landry over Amendola rest of season.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
This week, I would take Amendola over Landry. The Cowboys' defense is decent, and I'm excited to see what happens with New England week 1 with Amendola.
All right. Would you start Hearns over Landry?
I have Hearns right now 1 spot ahead of Landry.
So it's real close.
It's really close, but if I was the owner making that decision, I would put Landry in over Hearns because of the
safety.
Because of the safety, because it gives me more time. Yeah, I don't love personally playing Thursday players. It's always fun when you get to watch the Thursday game, have a horse in the race, but I just don't like it from a practical standpoint come Sunday for decisions. And the injuries, Hearns could come up limp in this game. So
he could come up lame in this game is what you meant.
Sure. Let's go with that then. we can record all my sound bites.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna push these other 2 games to tomorrow.
All right.
Because of the clock here. So I want to get into the starts of the week, and I don't want to be rushing through them all. So let's go ahead and do that.
Starts of the week.
All right, let's do it. Jason, do you want to kick us off? Quarterback?
Sure. For the quarterback, you mentioned him, I believe, earlier this week, but my start of the week is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is going to have as high a floor as you can have, but he also has an opportunity here against the 49ers. Remember, when the 49ers played Seattle just a couple weeks ago, they played them really well. They were in that game for a while. Now Seattle just lost at home to Arizona, and I feel like this is kind of like a double revenge factor. But the truth is, you have a high baseline and high upside. With coming off that loss, playing at home, they can run on the Niners. He can, and he can definitely throw on the Niners. So I just see he's only started in, what did you say, 39% of leagues.
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, so this is a matchup where if you've got him, I would start him.
All right, I'm going to go with my quarterback start of the week is Matthew Stafford. I know that might be painful to some former Stafford owners, but he faces Oakland. He's had some huge games this year. He's been in the 40s. He's had a lot of crap ones. I realize that, but this is a situation with starts of the week. Oakland is 26th against fantasy quarterbacks in terms of points given up, and he's coming off a 240-2 game. I think it's a good matchup. He just beat Green Bay in Green Bay, and I like his streaming ability this week. And Mike actually just cheated on this one, and his quarterback start of the week, here's what he wrote. I'm just going to tell you. I'm going to read it right to you. Stafford was the one I wanted, and I'm tired, so still Stafford.
Very nice.
That must have been after some Disneyland yesterday.
Well, there you go. We got the double Stafford. I'll go next to the running back, and I'll stick with Mike. Mike's running back start of the week is Gio Bernard. Arizona's very good against the run, but Arizona has been susceptible to pass-catching running backs. We saw that Mark Ingram ate him alive when he was just taking little screens. And so, yeah, Gio Bernard could be someone that you are afraid to start because of the Arizona matchup, but he should be able to eat in the pass-catching game. For myself, I spoke about that a minute ago, but I've got Jeremy Langford. I want to stay in the flames with Jeremy Langford. He has looked fantastic. It's going to be a cold game, which benefits handing the ball off, running it more. lower scores, keep the running backs involved. He's not going to get game flowed out of this game. So I like Langford. If you've got him, I would start him. If Forte comes back, obviously I would not just start Jeremy Langford.
All right, my running back start of the week is Charcandrick West. I know that's kind of at the top of the barrel there, but last week he was only 69% started. I'm sure after the big game that was going to change regardless, but he's bona fide, locked in as an RB1 this week. The Chargers are the worst team in football in terms of points given up to fantasy running backs, and that should absolutely continue this week with Charcandrick West. He's getting the lion's share, he's getting the pass game targets, and he's making Jamal Charles owners feel a little bit better about themselves if they picked him up. So I'll go ahead and start the wide receiver. It's Brandon Lafell for me. Brandon Lafell against Buffalo. Yes, there is the Danny Amendola factor, and everybody's all hyped up about him, but I expect Brandon Lafell to have, be a solid wide receiver 2 play on Monday Night Football, 9 to 10 targets in this game, and I think he might get in the end zone finally.
Yeah.
That's going to be my that'll be my prediction this week.
No, I like it a lot. My wide receiver start of the week is Amari Cooper. Obviously a super talented rookie wide receiver. Last week he caught 5 for 79. He hasn't had it's been 5 games since he's had less than 5 receptions. So now he comes up against Detroit, and I know Detroit looked amazing against Green Bay, but that was just, that's one of those intense rivalries where they always rise to a certain occasion. Detroit is not that team. Detroit has not been that great against the pass, and Amari Cooper, I think you can start him because he has a decent baseline. He's not gonna go out there and put up 4 fantasy points and burn you. He's gonna be enough consistency to where you can put him in your lineup, get something for him, and he has the potential here to have an explosive game.
Mike's wide receiver start of the week is Stevie Johnson, and I like that a lot. He's pretty much the number 1 target there right now. I didn't like Gates, okay, because I thought Kansas City's giving up something like 31 yards a game to the tight end, or less than that, something ridiculous. They're playing very well against the tight end, and I like their offense. So this is a target play, I think, for Mike. The KC secondary has improved, but Stevie Johnson's just going to get the targets. Malcolm Floyd is out this week. Keenan Allen is out, obviously, for the season. So Stevie Johnson's somebody that you can kind of stream in there and I think get at least a baseline production. I'm going to speak, to that. So,
I like that a lot.
Okay, so let's talk tight end. I'll start with Mike's tight end start, and he makes it very simple. He says it's Eric Ebron, and then he writes in all caps, Oakland.
I think you mean Oakland.
Yeah,
because
that's what Ebron said when he saw the schedule.
Yeah, I mean, Oakland still all year has been eaten up. I realized this last week, Kyle Rudolph didn't eat them up. Yeah, but he dropped a wide open. Dropped a touchdown. It's like, you can't ask for more, or rather less, from the defense opposing. So I love the Eric Ebron pick. I would have picked him for mine if I hadn't had him last week. But mine, I decided to go a little bit lower. We're at the point in the season where injuries and other factors are coming in, and people need sometimes to go off of waivers. So I went with a stream type of guy, and that's Jacob Tamme. Jacob Tamme has had a few big volume games. Indianapolis gives up a lot of yards and receptions, and recently touchdowns to the tight end. Hankerson is back to practice a little bit, but he's still coming up lame. So I think that you've got a matchup here that is going to need the tight end and use the tight end, and I expect a decent game from Tamme, especially if you're in a half point or full point PPR. I'd start him over a lot of other guys, including, as we said earlier, Jordan Reed.
It's about time Jacob Tamme got streamed.
Good.
There you go. So for me, it's Delanie Walker. I said it earlier. They don't have a lot of other pass catching options. So I think 5 to 6 catches, 70, 80 yards, and a chance at a touchdown is what you can expect tonight in the Thursday night football game. So if you're not feeling great about your tight end and you need to roll somebody in there, I'd roll Delanie Walker in there and see where the chips fall.
I like that a lot.
So those are our starts of the week, and that does it for today's show. We're going to have the rest of the fantasy forecast tomorrow. We should have Chris Meany on for our Daily Dose segment and some other things going on tomorrow. And do you have any parting words for our listeners, Mike? I just said Mike. Mike, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. Wait. Mike?
Mike? Okay. Jason, do you have any final thoughts?
I am going to be working out my knee to get over this injury to come back strong next week.
I had 4 touchdown passes.
Yes, you did.
I mean, that was probably the only bad throw I made all day. And honestly, you should have caught it. You should have caught it.
Probably just too slow. You threw a regular person, and I was out running like a...
That's okay. You were open. I should have hit you.
Yeah, I agree.
I apologize.
That's all right.
I blame Jay Cutler's mechanics video that I've been watching.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.thefantasyfootballers.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.